Hey, this is Kampai Cam, and if you're going to Kobe or even Osaka on your next trip to Japan, then this fantastic day hike might be for you. I'm going to be taking you from Shin-Kobe Station past the famous Nunobiki Falls, through the picturesque Herb Gardens, and then on to Mount Maya, aka Maya-san, and the spectacular Kikuseidai Observation Platform. This walk's got a little bit of everything, and we're going to cap it all off with a visit to a local sento to soak away the aches and pains. Let's do it. This hike is the ideal day trip from Kobe, but you can also just as easily come from Osaka. It's really not far, and Osaka in general is a brilliant place to use as a base, letting you get to Kobe, Kyoto and Nara with ease. That said, on this trip I stayed in Kobe, partly so I was close to the hikes I wanted to do, but also partly so I could spend some time in Nara, one of Japan's most famous sake brewing regions and home to both brewery museums and to an absolutely brilliant bar housed in an old Kenbishi brewery building. For this hike, I brought the usual: water bottle, sunscreen, insect repellent, sensible hat. I said sensible? Oh come on, what is this, an ad for the two Johnnies? Better, I guess. Umbrella, raincoat, phone battery pack, just in case, and a set of Porco Rosso figurines, just in case I became lost in the wilderness and had to entertain myself by reenacting the events of the film. As far as vittles, a word I've only ever said out loud once, just then, there are plenty of places to buy food and drinks along the way, so don't worry too much about stocking up on that stuff ahead of time. Anyway, let's get this hike underway. Our starting point is Shin-Kobe Station, and you can get a handful of somewhat useful maps for the trip to come from the Tourist Information Centre on the second floor. From here, you want to go down to the first floor, turn around to the left and come outside. You'll see the sign. It's a short walk to the first of the waterfalls, and the path through them is easy to follow. While some of these are more spectacular than others, they loom large in Japanese culture, so be sure to take the time to properly enjoy each scene. Along the way, it's also worth checking out the view from the Miharashi Overlook, which is just after the third waterfall. Continuing on, you can also choose to take a detour to the Takiyama Castle ruins by heading over the Sarunokazura Bridge, this gnarly vine-covered one on the left. It leads to an at times precipitous bush trail that takes you under the Kobe Nunobiki Ropeway and then up and above it on the other side. The views are spectacular and the forest is gorgeous. But be warned, the Takiyama Castle ruins that you're heading towards aren't actually worth reaching, so maybe hike up to about this point, keep an eye out for the bench, have yourself a breather and enjoy the view, and come back down. The mistake I made, incidentally, was misreading the sign as Takeshi's Castle Ruins.
What are you, nuts?
So I practically ran to the point on the map in hopes that some of the gang might still be around. Sadly, not even a fragment of one of the captain's epaulets. Ah well, let's go. Back on the main path, there's one more waterfall, a little low on water when I was there, followed by a reservoir, and from here I followed the signs towards Nunobiki Herb Gardens. It's free to enter, and within you'll find flowers, herbs, veggies, and meandering paths, all built into a gentle slope. It's a lovely, albeit busy stroll, and the views are fantastic. So far, however, we've really only trodden a very well-worn path, so now it's time to take the back gate, literally, and head towards Maya-san. That tiny gate, incidentally, is all the way at the very back of the Herb Garden complex. Now that we're actually in the bush, it's worth pointing out that the signage is pretty reasonable once you learn to recognise the kanji for Maya-san on the trail, that is, but I'd still recommend plugging the path from Nunobiki Herb Gardens to Maya-san into the hiking app of your choice, so you'll have no doubts at any of the junctions. All Trails is a reasonable option, as is Komoot, while I've heard that Alpine Quest on Android is quite good too, but I haven't tested it myself. Let's walk the trail for a bit. As you can see, the terrain along the way consists of lots of ups and downs with sections of gentle paths and then really steep rocky switchbacks. There are some pretty decent slopes at times, and no formal viewpoints, just glimpses of how high you are through the trees. There were a handful of other people on the trail, but it was still peaceful and picturesque and took me a little under an hour and a half to reach the top. From here, it's a short walk to the Kikuseidai Observation Platform, which is at 700 metres above sea level and actually has two main decks, each with an absolutely mind-boggling view in slightly different directions. These platforms take in the entirety of Kobe, but more than that, on clearer days you can see across Osaka Bay to the green peaks on the far side, and even get a great view of Osaka in the distance and the mountains beyond that. Nobody does a sprawling mass of humanity quite like the Japanese. Cities join to cities. The Kikuseidai Observation Platform also offers unbelievable views at night. So good, they're known as the $10 million night view. But you're obviously not going to be hiking back down if that's your plan. During the day, meanwhile, there are a heap of different options for either continuing on or heading back down to Kobe. On this particular trip, the clock was ticking for me, so after taking in the view, I opted to spend 900 yen on the Maya Ropeway and Maya Cable to get back down. The ropeway leaves every 20 minutes, so while I waited, I grabbed a quick snack at the quirky Cafe 702 on Hoshino Eki Station's second floor. Unsurprisingly, it also sports a stunning panorama. The trip down is divided into two sections. The ropeway first, which is basically a cable car, and then the Maya Cable, which is actually like a train on really steep tracks. A little confusing, but spectacular nonetheless. So that's the walk, or at least one version of it. Let's stick around for a little longer as I have an onsen recommendation for you. After all, one of the biggest advantages of hiking in Japan is the fact that at the end of the day you can find a bathhouse of some description to relax in. Nothing like hot water to reset those aching muscles. To that end, there's a tiny little sento called Ninomiya Onsen that's back near where we started, basically between Sannomiya and Shin-Kobe. This place is truly old school, with large wooden keys for the shoe lockers and an entry fee of only 450 yen. Mind you, if you don't have your own towel or soap, it'll be a little more, and there's also an additional charge if you want to use the sauna. Since I can't film behind the curtains, I'll let AI help paint a completely misleading picture inside the small bathing area. There's a central oval-shaped bath with a ledge around the inside, reclining bays, as well as a properly hot deep bath with the most powerful jets I've ever experienced. So strong, in fact, there are illustrations on the wall of a woman holding on for dear life. And lastly, to provide some contrast, there's a very small cold bath. To be honest, the main draw of this sento is probably the reception area, as this is where the locals grab a beer and have a chat after their soak. There's more going on here than in the average local sento, with a cafe serving draft beer and food in addition to the usual drinks cabinets, and a bit of colour from an aquarium on the side of the room. So get yourself a drink and unwind. Now, since no video about Japan would be complete without some food, let's end with a quick look at my Eki bento as I left Kobe on the Shinkansen that evening en route to new adventures. Hopefully you found this video useful and it will inspire you to get out into nature on your next trip to Japan. Please give it a like and follow the channel if you want more Japanese day hike recommendations. And if you have any suggestions for other day hikes in and around Kobe, let me know in the comments. I'll leave you with 30 Seconds of Serenity.